Strategic Corporate Social Responsibility, Sustainable Value Creation, by David Chandler reframes corporate social responsibility, CSR, as a strategic imperative rather than a philanthropic sideline. The book rejects the notion that CSR is simply about doing good for its own sake, and instead argues that sustainability, ethics, and long-term value creation must be embedded into the core of business strategy. Chandler encourages companies to move beyond compliance and reputation management toward a model where social and environmental concerns are integral to how business is done. From the outset, Chandler defines CSR not as a peripheral activity, but as a form of competitive advantage. He positions CSR as a lens through which companies can identify emerging opportunities, manage risks, and build stronger stakeholder relationships. The book outlines how genuine engagement with societal issues can create shared value, benefiting both the company and the communities in which it operates. In this view, CSR is not a cost, but a source of innovation and differentiation. One of the book's central themes is the stakeholder perspective. Chandler emphasizes that businesses no longer operate in a vacuum where only shareholders matter. In the age of transparency and interconnectedness, customers, employees, suppliers, regulators, and activists all hold influence over a company's success. Strategic CSR involves understanding and balancing these interests, often through dialogue and collaboration rather than transactional relationships. Rather than treating stakeholders as threats to be placated, Chandler frames them as potential partners in value creation. He argues that companies that take the time to listen and respond to stakeholder concerns often uncover inefficiencies, unmet needs, or opportunities for new products and services. This approach also builds trust and loyalty, which are crucial assets in a highly competitive and skeptical market. Chandler explores how CSR initiatives can align with a company's core competencies. He argues that businesses should focus their social efforts where they have the greatest expertise and influence. For example, a tech company might focus on digital inclusion, while a food company could prioritize sustainable agriculture. This alignment ensures that CSR is not only authentic but also strategically relevant, making it easier to measure and manage its impact. Measurement is another major pillar of the book. Chandler critiques vague or symbolic CSR efforts and stresses the importance of setting clear goals, metrics, and accountability structures. He encourages companies to move toward integrated reporting, where financial, social, and environmental performance are evaluated together. This approach, he argues, helps companies make better decisions and builds credibility with stakeholders who demand evidence of real impact. In a particularly compelling section, Chandler addresses the tension between short-term profitability and long-term sustainability. He acknowledges the pressure many managers face from shareholders who demand quarterly returns but argues that this mindset is increasingly outdated. The most forward-looking firms, he suggests, are those that prioritize long-term thinking, even if it means sacrificing some short-term gains. These companies invest in relationships, ecosystems, and ethical practices that future-proof their operations. The book also discusses the role of regulation and public policy in shaping CSR. Chandler doesn't see government and business as adversaries, but as co-creators of a functioning society. He argues that smart regulation can level the playing field, reward responsible behavior, and create frameworks within which innovation can flourish. Businesses, in turn, have a role in shaping and supporting policies that align with sustainable development goals. Chandler dives deep into case studies that illustrate both successes and failures in CSR strategy. He analyzes companies like Patagonia and Unilever that have built their brands around sustainability and social responsibility, showing how these values can coexist with profitability. Conversely, he examines companies that have used CSR as a form of greenwashing, making cosmetic changes without addressing underlying issues. And the reputational risks that result. Ethical leadership emerges as a key driver of successful CSR. Chandler underscores that CSR cannot thrive in a culture of fear, secrecy, or purely bottom-line thinking. Leaders must model integrity, transparency, and a commitment to doing the right thing, even when it's inconvenient. Ethics, he argues, should not be viewed as a constraint on business but as a compass that guides innovation and fosters trust. Importantly, the book does not treat CSR as a one-size-fits-all formula. Chandler acknowledges that each industry and company must tailor its strategy to its unique context. The key is to embed CSR into the DNA of the organization, into its mission, values, strategy, and operations. This integration transforms CSR from a marketing tool into a way of thinking, acting, and leading. The book also challenges companies to consider their role in addressing systemic global challenges such as climate change, inequality, and social unrest. Chandler frames these not as distractions from business, but as existential issues that will shape the future of markets and economies. Companies that embrace their role in contributing to solutions are more likely to earn the license to operate and grow in the long term. Throughout the text, Chandler is realistic about the challenges. He acknowledges resistance within organizations, the complexity of measuring impact, and the cynicism that surrounds CSR in some circles. Yet he remains optimistic, arguing that the tide is turning. Consumers, investors, and employees are increasingly demanding responsibility and transparency, and those who lead the way will define the next era of business. The final chapters emphasize that CSR is not just about what companies do, it's about who they are. Identity, purpose, and culture all influence how a business shows up in the world. Strategic CSR, then, is ultimately about alignment, aligning profit with purpose, actions with values, and business models with the needs of society. This alignment, Chandler argues, is the foundation of long-term sustainable value creation. In the end, strategic corporate social responsibility is a call to action for leaders to rethink the role of business in society. It's a guide for building companies that are resilient, ethical, and deeply connected to the world around them. Chandler provides a roadmap for turning CSR from a sideline activity into a strategic cornerstone, one that drives both meaningful impact and enduring success.